Welcome to the Red Light Expose podcast.
We are an international grassroots survivor-led circle.
Our goal is to counter the growing acceptance of sex work ideology.
We aim to raise awareness of the harms of commercializing sex,
meaning prostitution, porn, stripping, and BDSM.
Through honest, in-depth conversations, we elevate voices often ignored and silenced.
Together, we're challenging stereotypes and dismantling myths.
We envision a healthier, safer society, especially for women and girls.
We appreciate your company on this journey. Welcome back to the Red Light Expose podcast. My name is Elly Arrow. I'm coming to you from Germany. I'm an activist against commercial sexual exploitation. And in today's episode, I am speaking to Iana Matei over in Romania. Iana Matei is a veteran activist against human trafficking for the purpose of commercial sexual exploitation. A psychologist by training, she has been building a safe house network for trafficked girls and young women across Romania since 1998, after previously surviving her own ordeal of domestic violence and political persecution under the communist regime in the 1980s. She and her organization, Reaching Out Romania, have aided more than 700 women and girls in escaping trafficking and rebuilding their lives. Iana Matei served as an advisor to the US State Department and United Nations, been awarded human rights prizes by the US and UK governments, and been designated European of the Year 2010 by Reader's Digest. She has authored 3 books on sex trafficking. 2 are available in English, 1 in Portuguese, and all will be linked to the description. A portion of each book sale goes directly to Reaching Out Romania. Thank you, Iana, for being with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I'm sure this is the first question you get every time, but for all the listeners who don't know you, can you give us a short version of how you came to this issue, how your work with, my understanding it was homeless children in Romania, children living on the street, it connected you with the issue of sex trafficking, and then how did that become the center of your work?
Yeah, indeed. I came to Romania in 1998 to work with street children because it was a real problem and not enough social services, let's say. And while I was working with these children, I got a phone call from the police asking me to bring food and clothing for 3 young girls, prostitutes, they said, that they have in their office. The girls came to give a statement against the abuser. And I went to the police station to talk to the girls to see what size they are, what is it they want to eat. And there were 3 children, 14, 15, and 15 and a half. And that was my initial shock. I asked them, of course, what happened to them? Why are they in this predicament? And they've told me genuinely that they were bought and sold. And that was my other shock because I couldn't understand who can sell and buy a human being. So there were no programs, there were no services for these girls. And when I asked the police what's going to happen to them, they said, well, after they give the statement, they're free to go. And when they said that, the girls were terrified and they signaled to me with the finger, no, no, no. So I took them aside and I asked them what happens. So they've told me that they are in danger. If they will go free, the trafficker will come after them and they will be in trouble. So basically, this is how the program started. I rented a flat and I took the girls in the flat and I learned everything from them.
And what did those 3 girls and the many, many you've met after tell you? What is the entry into exploitation? Because I think a lot of people assume that girls are just kidnapped off the street, that is the standard story. Suddenly, poof, they're gone. But what you continuously raise awareness about is that often it's not just poverty that's the cause, that somebody sees the child as, unattended because the family is working, but a lot has to do with a family being willing to, not seek out a child because that's one less mouth to feed, or the family being an active part of the trafficking process. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have dysfunctional families, and that doesn't mean necessarily they're involved in trafficking. It means that they don't check the safety of their children. The poverty is another factor because the promise of a better job in a European country appeals to the parents and they don't check the risks. And lately, I think we have the lover boy method, which is rampant. It's all across Europe and is the most sadistic method of recruitment, in my opinion, because they target young girls, teenagers, and teenagers want to fall in love. And this is exactly what the lover boy preys upon. And they make the girls fall in love with them. They are very attentive, they are very gentle, they take them out for dinner, they give them all the compliments that they never heard in their life. So, in a very short period of time, the girls become dependent to these guys and they are the center of their universe. Education is a factor. In my opinion, there is not enough prevention in schools. No one talks to these children to teach them the dangers, to give them the red flags, nothing. Nothing whatsoever. They say, no, don't talk to the children because you give them ideas. So we don't talk to the children and then they fall in love with the wrong person. They don't know what the red flags are and they completely trust these guys. They are willing to travel across the border with them and this is when they are exploited.
The girls you work with, are they just exploited in Romania or do they end up in Italy, Spain, Germany, like all across Europe or even beyond? What's the story there with the destination countries?
Well, the destination countries, Spain, Italy mainly, Belgium, Central European countries, but now in the last years they moved north countries, Norway, Denmark, because the market is full in Central European countries and the price dropped. So they move north where the price is better. And yet last years we work with girls between 10 years and 13 years of age, so they were groomed for European countries. But that's my problem. They target the teenagers, they exploit them in Romania, and these girls learn that no one is around to help them. So after a while they understand that this is their life. This is all they know, this is all they can. And when they are exported, to say so, in European countries, they don't even seek help because they learn that no one is there to help them.
My understanding is also that the traffickers often give the girls false papers. So she might be 14, but the papers say 18. Or how does that work? Or do the buyers always know this is a child?
Yes, they have forged papers, some of them. The traffickers are waiting until the girls turn 18 because there were cases against traffickers and they end up in prison for trafficking minors. So they learn their lesson. They exploit the girls in Romania until they are 18, and then when they are 18, they are well trained to work on the streets. They won't be a bother for the trafficker. They will never seek help, even if someone comes to ask them if they need help. They will say, no, this is what I want to do. I like this life. The lesson that they learn from the trafficker.
Who always promises, oh, you only have to do this for a few more years and then we will, buy a house together and have children and those kinds of stories. And for a child that's been starved, that doesn't have familial love, that doesn't have confidence or self-acceptance, or where a mix of love and violence feels normal, that promise, it seems wonderful. And it's such a big issue here in Germany that we are trying to build the prevention of people going into the schools to teach about the lover boy method. But from what you're saying, even though it's been such a huge issue in Romania, there's still lack of funding for this type of prevention. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly right. There are no fundings for these programs, and there are no programs provided by the state institutions for these girls. In Romania, you don't have social assistance for victims of trafficking. I think that there are one or two centers with, let's say, capacity of 10 beds. So if you take the statistics of the Romanian agency, there were 390 something victims of trafficking, out of which 10 can receive accommodation and assistance. The 380, well, I assume they have to go back on the streets because there are no social services provided for these girls.
And I do want to get back to the role of the state later, but before we do that, I did want to ask about the traffickers, as in who are these men, or sometimes women, I mean, I'm sure that it can vary from network to network or location to location, but you often wonder, how does somebody become a trafficker? Some people wonder, does he too or she also have a traumatic childhood, or do they grow up, like, is the family criminal, or are there middle-class businesses or corrupt police officers involved? Like, who are the men who make up these networks? That's a big question, maybe.
It is, because it differs, as you said, from small networks to big networks, from family businesses, we can call them, where the boys are taught by their parents to fall in love with a girl and exploit her so they can make some money. Then they can be connected. They always work well together, and they are always connected with the networks in the destination countries. So it's a very dynamic phenomenon, but who are these people? Not necessarily abused children. In fact, we interviewed a trafficker who started at the age of 14, and he had money. His parents were middle class. He didn't lack anything. And he said he did it because it was fun to do it. And what is sickening is that he was giving us details on how he abused the girls. And when we asked him, do you think the girls will recover? He smirked and he said, nah, not in their lifetime. So they are aware of what they are doing, but it doesn't matter as long as they can make money, lots of money. And funny enough, not all of them will invest the money in something. Let's say, will whatever, build a house in Romania. Most of them are gambling. So the girls are making the money and they lose them gambling.
It's also what we see in Germany. I've been told that a lot of the traffickers here, they buy big cars, they buy dogs. They're also involved in drug trade, gambling. I mean, we can see the legal brothels here and the very shady gambling parlors. Everything is very close. And then also a lot of these men work in the security sector over here, which is a very problematic industry that attracts a lot of shady people, even though it's a legal industry. So these girls and women are enduring what I perceive to be torture so that he can make frivolous purchases. Not that, like, if he was like raising his entire village out of poverty, it would be okay to torture a girl. Of course not. But it's like adds insult to injury that this is what a lot of these men are doing with that money.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
To get a little more into the methods, one thing that I've come across a lot in my research, reading what the men who the buyers say, and they have a huge amount of knowledge about human trafficking. Maybe that can surprise some people. They think they don't know, but at least the frequent buyers who talk to each other on internet forums know. And they speak about this one phenomenon that I think overlaps with everything we talked about, which is called breaking in. So that my understanding is that is the serial rape of the victim to break her will, to break her spirit. So then she's ready for the less sadistic buyers who then have somebody who is compliant. Is that something you're encountering in your work as well? Because you talked about like lover boy and flirtation and gifts, but there's this side of it as well, is my understanding.
A while ago, yes, they used this method of torturing girls with sexual abuse, rape, in such a way that when they agree to work for these traffickers, they were less exploited. It's not the word, but their life was easier than when they were saying, no, I don't want to do it, and they were raped continuously. If we are talking about the lover boy method, I always talk about this case because the girl was educated. She was first year student at university, and she fell in love with the wrong person. In 3 months, he continuously eroded her relationship with her parents. Every time she was saying that, let's say, I had a discussion with my mom today because I didn't do the dishes, then the guy would say, your parents don't deserve you, you are such a good girl. Give her all the compliments in the world. 3 months. In 3 months, she moved in with him and his family. And his sister gave her a golden necklace because we are sister-in-laws. And then after another 2 months, he convinced her that they should go in Spain, work, raise money to come back, make a wedding, and buy a house. The moment they got in Spain, in an apartment where 3 other girls and 2 guys were waiting for them, he then provided her with a long list of debts, her debt towards him, which meant every dinner he took her out, She was in a hospital 3 days with a minor surgery, and he took her out the mountains after that. In total, $20,000 she was supposed to give him. He told her that from the window they could see the club where she's going to work with other 3 girls to make this kind of money. After he told her that, she cracked up laughing because this was her fiancé. Yeah? It was the man that she loved and loved her. And then he ripped off her clothes, raped her in front of all the other people, and then spit on her. She did have a nervous breakdown. It was very difficult to work with her. But it wasn't like she was tortured before. It was the shock of the truth when she found out that broke her.
Yeah. Like you said, like it can happen relatively fast. Perpetrators don't necessarily need to circle the child for years and years and years. I did want to ask about the buyers because I feel like they're often forgotten in the story, but they provide the money. So there's somebody who has excess income or who is willing to spend money this way. I am aware that a number of these men know that trafficking is rampant. Sometimes they know exactly the source countries and the corridors and the dynamics. I read it all the time. Give me 10 minutes, I will find German men who go to brothels and the street and everywhere, like write about seeing women who are afraid, disgusted, in pain, drug use, or they see the traffickers. They're not necessarily invisible all the time. I've seen them say, oh, there's a girl here who still has her braces on. I've seen everything. This was on Google Maps, wasn't even like in the darknet. This is one of the reasons that I do this work, because once I saw what these men say, I'm like, these men are my colleagues, I don't know, possibly family members, maybe friends. They are around me. I mean, a girl who has been through trafficking, she will have trust issues, but those of us who work with this topic, you try not to have it huge trust issues, because it's disturbing already when a man around me is willing to buy an adult, but he's willing to risk or intentionally buys a child. That is hard to stomach. I often ask people, how do you live with a knowledge like that the victims live among us, but the perpetrators do too?
Yeah, to me, it's amazing that in 2025, we are talking about sexual exploitation, and it seems like we got used with it. I remember at the beginning when we were talking about trafficking, people were appalled, and everyone wanted to do something to help. Let's create networks, let's talk, let's share. And now it's like it's another social issue that we have to live with. It's no determination to end this phenomenon, and that is worrying. Regarding the buyers, it was a study published by a university in Italy. I have to look for that information, but they were studying the clients. They created a web page saying that they are buyers, and they wanted to exchange opinions with other buyers from Europe. And it was very interesting because in the northern countries, the buyers were over 30, all married, and the reason they were using services was the fact that they didn't have communication in the family, and they buy services from these girls in order to, talk to them. And why I say it's funny, because at that time we had the girl who was repatriated from Denmark, and I asked her about the clients without telling her the result of the study. And she was saying that most of them were talking non-stop. Obviously, she realized that they were upset, they were sad, and she said, I was talking to them Romanian, patting them on the shoulder and comforting them the way I could, and that made the world to them. And I skipped, when the study was presented, I skipped the Central European countries because I was looking at the Eastern countries where my interest was. And the guys in Eastern European countries are young, are until 30 years. They're not married. And because in these countries, the relationship is based on material possessions, and the girls are always looking at wealthy guys or guys who are driving smart cars and whatever. These guys consider that they don't have a chance to a relationship, so they use services in order to imagine that they are in a relationship. So I think that the buyers should be studied more, because as you said, not all of them are like that, and I 100% believe that a lot of them know that the girls are exploited, but they just don't care.
And of course, if they're in a country like Germany or Belgium, then the government backs it, like it's perfectly fine. What you were saying about the men who just want to talk, I'm glad for every man who just wants to talk. It's still strange because the girls don't speak German or French or Norwegian, so this is a very one-sided conversation. I've been reading a lot about the buyers because I want to understand that phenomenon. And again, like I said, these are men around me, and I feel it's hard to live equally side by side if they're treating women like objects. That's how I feel. And I did find in the research that there is a crucial window for the buyers between about 20 and 30. If they don't start around this age, it's unlikely to happen later. But what is tragic is that there is still a lot of communities where, like you said, quite young men who maybe are not very confident or who feel like they need to be experienced now to be real men. They start buying. Sometimes that buyer is also underage. It's happening here as well in Germany or Switzerland. There are reports of teenage boys going to brothels. And in fact, in Switzerland, it's legal to start buying from age 16. So not only is there a group of girls being raised, oh, you are made for exploitation, there's a group of boys being raised, well, if you want to take part in adult life, be a sexual person, be a cool, mature adult, the brothel is where you go at like 16. Is that something you've encountered as well, where the buyer is really young, like a minor sometimes?
Yes, it is a tradition, let's say, in Romania that an older person in the family will take a younger boy to the brothel, to the prostitutes, to make him a man, to show him what a man means, to start his sexual activity in a pleasant way with a person that has experience, that can teach him things. That's the idea.
In my perspective, that's child abuse of the boy as well. And we would need prevention for that. But I feel like no one is talking about this. People have just started talking about the girls. No one is talking about this phenomenon that I can see. I've not encountered it. Do you know anyone working on that issue?
No, of course. No, because we don't talk. That's the problem. And if we would go in schools and in these vulnerable communities, that's the problem in Romania. That's why we end up with so many victims. We have many vulnerable communities which are closed usually, and the social services don't go into these communities. The problem is that most of the children drop out of school. So if you go with a prevention campaign in schools, you talk about trafficking, these girls are not in that target group because they are not in school. So we need to go in these communities and start some programs, personal development and everything else you want in order to educate boys and girls together. Now, in Romania, you have another phenomenon. A lot of boys applaud the Tate model, Tate brother. And they think that that means to be a man, a real man. It means you have to be macho. And that's why I'm saying you need to educate boys and girls together. It's not only we talk to the boys or we talk to the girls.
Since you mentioned him, I was going to ask about Andrew Tate, because obviously that's internationally one of the most well-known names when it comes to the topic of trafficking. And there are Romanian authorities trying to prosecute him. We'll see how it works out. I'm not 100% up to date. We do have a previous episode on the subject, but the case is always evolving. And that's made a huge, huge splash. I think most people know that Andrew Tate and his brother give very concrete instructions on how to become a trafficker. There's no sugarcoating it. The Romanian public, have they taken note and responded to this? Because he basically said to the world, oh, Romania is a great place to traffic, so that's where I will go. That's essentially what he said.
This is exactly what he said. And as you can see, unfortunately, he is right, because in his case, I don't think that the Romanian authorities managed to prosecute him. I also know that the British prosecutor is waiting for them to sentence him. So a lot of the boys will cheer up the Tate brothers because they are right. And of course, women associations and anti-trafficking associations are criticizing the model.
We can only hope that if the Romanian authorities don't get him, then the British do. And I think there's even a case pending in the US as well, because like everywhere he has been doing this for many, many years. But he's also a good example of how long it takes to get these guys and how they just move to another place, they move again. They're very hard to catch.
That's another point. The justice system fails these girls. I mean, we had cases where we went 9 years, we went to court. Yes, he was convicted at the end. The whole network was convicted, but 9 years out of the girl's life. And she was able to do it just because we accompanied her to court. We had our own lawyer, but it was 9 years, 4 years. This is the length of a trial for a victim of trafficking to see justice done. And it's a pity because that's another step towards her recovery. The moment when the trafficker is convicted is the first step towards recovery, the real step towards recovery for the girl. Prior to the conviction, all the girls, absolutely all the girls, feel guilty. They feel that they deserve what happened to them because they were stupid. No matter how much counseling we are doing with them and how much we talk to them, they keep saying, well, you say that because you care for me, but the truth is that I was stupid and I deserve everything that came my way. So when we go to court and they see the trafficker handcuffed, it's the first step. You can see hope in their eyes that that guy is handcuffed and she is here in the room testifying against him. And when the conviction comes, it's when she feels free for real. She feels that, yeah, it was a nightmare. I get over it and I go on with my life. That's why justice system is important. But in Romania, it's disaster when we talk about trafficking. I mean, we had the general prosecutor saying a few years ago, general prosecutor of Romania, said that the 13-year-old girl agreed to sex with a 47-year-old guy. And everyone was appalled, and she said, yes, but I had the file. How can you say that a 13-year-old agree with the sex? That's rape. She was a minor. So if the general prosecutor says that, well, the guys who love and Tate brothers are entitled to say whatever is it that they are saying because justice is on their side, as we can see. Many files were closed for lack of evidence. Yeah, a lot of abuses in the justice system.
Many people assume, anything under 18, the justice system is super harsh on these men. Everyone claims they hate pedophiles, they hate child abusers, but then you see these cases go to court. Again, we have them in Germany. There's one in Austria that's gone viral. The girl was like 12 or 13. She was gang raped. There was video recorded, so that is child sexual abuse material or so-called child pornography. And the judge said the girl, she sent the photos and she wanted this. And this is even under the age of consent. So age of consent is worryingly low in a lot of countries. My country, Germany, it's 14. So a 14-year-old can consent to a 47-year-old here in Germany. They can. It's insane. But sometimes the child is even younger and the justice system is still like, oh, but sometimes she wrote flirty messages to the abuser. That makes a difference. So this idea of the child seducing the adult or offering themselves up or having a good time with a gang is in the heads of people in the justice system across the world.
It's sickening, and we started training the police in, I think it was 2000, 2001. And at the beginning, they were reluctant, like, what can a psychologist teach or, a police officer? And I said exactly that, psychology, the psychology of the abused child. We are talking about psychology. And that worked. That worked because they got the inside of the child that they were interviewing. So it helped. And we were trying to do the same with the prosecutors and judges. And we had a big no from the authorities because the judges have to be independent, so you don't have to train them. I don't understand this logic. And we managed to do a few trainings with the prosecutors, but that was a while ago, and these prosecutors are not in the office anymore. So I think education, when I say education, it's an important step. It's not only in school with children, it's also the authorities that are involved in fighting trafficking. They should be a team. The prosecutors, the police, the social services. They should be a team and they should exchange information. I don't need information from the police about their case and investigation, but for example, I need information from the police where they find the hubs where these things happen so I can go in there and help the girls. It should be a multidisciplinary team, which everyone talks about, but at least in Romania, it doesn't exist.
We want to take a moment to thank you for your listenership. As an independent volunteer collective, Our episodes are only made possible because of donations from people like you. Please visit our website, www.redlightexpose.com, and click the Donate tab. There, you can find ways to financially support us one time or on a monthly basis. Your support is greatly appreciated. And now, back to the episode.
You were just saying about going in and getting the girls out. Like one of your books, the title is I Kidnap Girls, which I understand that's a catchy title, but it is in the sense literal. I'm assuming sometimes social workers or police bring the girls to the shelters, but there are also times when you directly go to the locations where it's happening in the street and you take in the girls. Can you tell us about that process? Because I haven't heard about that happening. I talk to Americans, British people, Germans. Everyone is scared to do something like this. Even the children, they sometimes arrest them, but they don't really know any other way of going in and getting the child out. That's not arrest. So how does that work?
Well, it works fine, thank you. It has to, because if there is no other way, we started with a girl who was supposed to be moved in Turkey, and I don't remember, it was like a week. That was the time frame. So we needed to get to her. But in order to make sure that she wanted to come out, because you might have a problem, she's scared, she doesn't know who you are, she might shout. A lot of the girls thought that I'm a trafficker and I kidnapped them from this trafficker to exploit them myself, because they don't know who you are and what you want to do. So we contact the girl and we tell her what we want to do. If she agreed, then we set up a time. In this case, she was locked up. The only time when she was taken out was when a friend of hers from Spain was sending money. So she was allowed, but of course, accompanied to go to the post office and get the money out. So this is how we did it at that time. But usually I go beforehand and I see if there is an entrance and exit of that area, because you need to go in, get the girl, and then exit. That is not such a philosophy. It can be done, and it's, from my point of view, recommended, because these girls need to get out.
It's not how it's done in Germany or in many other countries. Like I said, other than if they have grounds to arrest because they think there's drugs or it's an illegal prostitution area, which is a problem because then the victim can sometimes end up with a criminal record. The social workers, what they do here is they sometimes have these, daycare spaces where the young children or young adults can come and like shower, eat, take a nap, but they will actually not remove them against their will. They wait until the child says, rescue me. But you talked about the most of the time the child will not ask for this unless maybe they think they're going to die. This is also what survivors tell me. Even adults don't ask for help unless they think they're going to literally die and they still have some will to live. So what I see in Germany happening is the social workers are just managing the misery. They're not really helping. They're like, oh, here's condoms. They're probably giving PrEP to the boys.
Not only that they manage the misery, but they help the trafficker. I know that these programs, outreach, where you go on the street and help the girls with condoms and whatever talks. I talked to the girls in Netherlands and I asked them, we went in the red light district with the social workers and an organization that was working with the girls. And I was Romanian, they were Romanian. So I asked them, who do you think these ladies are that visit you? And they said, oh, they're from the government and they want to keep their clients healthy. That was their perception. They're not here to help us. They're here to keep the clients healthy. They give us condoms and blah, blah. But in Denmark, for example, I've seen these day centers where the girls are coming, they can eat something, have a cup of tea, clothes if they are in need. And this is a great help for the trafficker because he doesn't spend extra money feeding the girls or clothing the girls. They also have medical assistance, which is a help for the trafficker. So I think that this is a construct that it's not necessarily helping the girls. It's, as you said, help them manage the misery. I think it has to be rethinked.
I strongly think so, which is why I was encouraged to hear what you're doing. Because just recently, a social worker said they are a kind of a rescue center, but they said most of the time it works like this. The young women, they come here when the trafficker said, you are too sick, you are not profitable. So go to the center, get your health supported. And when she is able to like walk again, or, she's somewhat functioning, he's waiting outside, and she goes right back. So this is not stopping the system. Like you said, it's supporting it. And I know a lot of social workers who say, I can't work like this. We're not stopping anything.
I agree that there is a small window when you can save a girl, especially if they've been on the street for too long, because they don't have the guts to get out of the situation. They don't know what they are going to do. If they come out, they feel like they're stupid. They cannot do anything else. So, of course, they are terrified and they think maybe I'm safer here because I know this environment. I'm not going out of it. But as you said, when the trafficker beats her up or threatens her, or that's the moment when she seeks help. So that's the moment to help her. But when you go in, get her, then you have to relocate her, because after the crisis pass, she will rethink her situation. So what have I done? I left the cozy environment. I am in a new environment. I don't know what these people want from me. I don't know what they expect from me. I'm going to fail them because I am a failure. So it's better if I go back. That's why it's imperative that you relocate them and not allow them to contact the trafficker or that network. And counseling, counseling, counseling. This is what you do. And activities to encourage her to go forward, find a vocational class, whatever talent she has, and encourage her to do what she can do and show her that she can. That's the biggest battle of all. Not to get them out of there, to keep them out.
I think people who work with addiction or with young men in organized crime understand these dynamics. Or domestic violence, it's exactly the same psychological phenomenon.
I agree, and I don't understand everyone blame the victims of trafficking. But when you talk about battered women syndrome, it's exactly the same. The only difference is that that woman is married, she has a label, married woman. And these girls don't have that label, so they are whores.
But of the girls who come to your shelters, I was reading your old blog where you write, of course, like it does happen that a girl does re-enter or disappear, can even happen years later. But you do also have, I mean, success story feels like the wrong word. You have a new start, like that can happen. Are you able to keep in touch with some of the girls who have been in the shelters years later?
Yay to social media. This is how we keep in touch. And every time when they leave the shelter, I tell them that I don't want to follow them. I would love to keep in touch with them, but I don't want to bother them. I don't want them to feel like they are followed, they are supervised, they are not trusted. And this is what I tell them. So if you want, we keep in touch. You contact me. And they do. So we know what they're doing. We know even the girls who are back on the streets. They, two of them contact me and said, I am back. Maybe this is my fate. Maybe that's why I was born to do this kind of thing, which is not true, but it's sad. Broken girls raped by their father and their brother and shamed by the community for being raped at the age of 14. That's the sad thing about these girls. We fail them and we blame them.
In the shelter, the girls live, it's in groups, so there's other girls there as well. Like, I can imagine any type of group home can be challenging, but then also you're not the odd one out. You're with girls who've been through the same. So what kind of dynamics do you observe? Maybe the girls keep in touch as well long term. Does that happen where they move on to the new life together?
They do keep in touch after they leave the shelter. And they form small groups, which we are doing in the society. Yeah, I have some friends, but not everyone is my friend. They are the same. They do argue a lot because they don't know how to resolve their emotional problems, and they do it the way they learn how to do it. So you have to stay always between them to make sure that they don't fight. Then you teach them empathy, and they are very empathic, but you just have to bring the point back home because they perceive each other sometimes like enemies. And it is challenging. As a boss, as they said, I am the boss. From time to time, I have to say that because it's funny. We give them a questionnaire to evaluate the services that they receive, and the questionnaire is about the social worker, the staff that works with them, to evaluate them from 0 to 10 and justify why is it like that. So on these questionnaires, I'm always with the smallest percentage, do you understand? Because they always say that I sided with someone, some girl, or I implement the rules and they make a mistake. That there are consequences and they don't like that until they learn. So in the girls' questionnaires, I get the smallest points.
Oh, okay. So you're like a bad cop in the sense that you were writing about this on your blog as well. Like when you have a traumatized child, there might be a part in you that's like, I just want to give them everything they want. Like if they want cigarettes, let's give them cigarettes. If they want this toy, let's give them that toy. But it's actually important also to learn a healthy no when an adult or authority figure gives a healthy no, not an abusive, punishing one. And you can get rewarded, but maybe sometimes you have to work for it. Like the things that a healthy parent should be doing that these girls never got, you and your staff have to try and fill that role best you can, right?
The biggest problem always is the boyfriend. They go to school and the first thing they want to do is to get into a relationship. So we have to stop them for a while. They won't go to school. If they do that, if I find out then they don't go to school for 1 week or 2 weeks, we do school from home. We connect on the internet and we do that. And they hate it because they want to go to school to be in the collectivity.
Among their peers.
Yes, and that they hate the most, but every single one of them, because they want to change the label. If they are married, then they are respectable people in the society, yeah? These are the moments when we do counseling like group therapy without them asking or me asking, because we talk about whom are you trusting. How do you get in a relationship when you don't know the person? How do you know that you don't end up in a worse situation than that? Why do you have to rush? You are only 13 or 14. It's not like you have to get married tomorrow because it's too late. The main problem in the shelter is we want to have a boyfriend.
Of course. And then it's societal respectability. And I know a lot of survivors through my work, and relationships are very tough. You also have the opposite, where relationships are incredibly scary, understandably so. And girls and women just don't want to be around boys. Sometimes even being in any space with men and boys is triggering by itself, which makes it hard to reintegrate. So if you are working in like a service job and there are sometimes rude, entitled, weird, creepy men around, young women in service positions, that can make it hard as well. So you got both extremes, the ones who understandably seek out problematic men or boys quickly, and the ones who cannot be around them also. I'm assuming you've seen that as well.
Yeah, you have both ways, but until you find out that their behavior towards men, it's always harsh, and they believe that all men are stupid. So that's their reaction. But the teenagers' way of teasing because I like you, they get boys who respond to their behavior and then they are intrigued and they want to find out more about that boy, and it's the wrong boy, evidently.
I had one more question related, which is, in Germany, what has been important in shifting public perception is that the survivors, the girls and women, and sometimes men who live through it, go to the public. Some of them show their face, usually a fake name, but some are even brave enough to use their real one, and they tell about this and they make it visible, and they face huge backlash, but there is increasing support. When people ask me why is opinion shifting in Germany, because I think it is. I think people are becoming more aware. I see way more ordinary people getting into the activism. It's a movement forming. I always say it's the survivors speaking out. And I know survivors from all around the world, but I actually don't know anyone from Romania, except I think Amelia Tiganus is Romanian, but based in Spain. That's the only one. Is it the language barrier, or is there a survivor movement in Romania, or is that like socially still not possible?
No, it's not. It's not because it's not socially possible. As soon as a victim tells the story, you will have people in audience that will comment. Why did you go there? But was your fault? And the most common one, if you were unhappy in that relationship because he beat you up, why didn't you leave? And this is when I get angry, because I told you it's a parallel with the better women syndrome. A woman who's married and gets physical violence from her husband is expected to stay there and make the relation work. But if a girl who was abused suffer violence, it's her fault for not getting out of that relationship. And my comment to that is that, most of these girls are coming from dysfunctional families, or maybe they were raised in an orphanage. So the violence is something normal for them. They've been used with violence all their life. But with I love you, they are not used. So if that guy will beat them up a whole week, they can endure it because they suffered that before. But when at the end of the week he says, I love you, that makes it worthwhile. What I'm trying to do now in a project is to get an actress, get the stories of the girls, the real stories, and have the actress telling the story, impersonating the victim, and see how it goes. Because if they will abuse the actress, she's smart enough to stand up. We will say that she's an actress, so there is no reason to abuse her. She's just an actress for impersonating a victim of trafficking. Maybe we'll work this way.
I hope so. I wish you a lot of luck with that. It's already hard for the survivors over here in Germany. Many of them are like, nobody wants to hire me. They feel like nobody wants to date them, or sometimes friends and family break off. It's such a big thing to ask, and some of them are brave enough to do it. Somebody has to start it to humanize this group of women and girls, but it will take generations. Going to have lots and lots of consequences. And of course, the traffickers of the survivors are often still out there. Not all of them. Most of them are not in prison, so they have to live with that as well. But speaking of personal attacks, you've expressed publicly that you've had lots of death threats of violence, and you said they haven't killed you yet, so you carry on, but you deal with that as well as a proxy, right?
Yeah, that's true. There were threats, there were action, there were September of last year, but I don't believe that they are really out to get me. I think that they are so used of scaring people with threats that they think it works always. This is what I believe. I don't believe that they are out to kill me. I believe that they try to scare me. Yeah. In fact, when we kidnapped the first girl, that was funny because he called the police to complain about me kidnapping the minor. And the police were trying to threaten me, and I explained to them the situation. I'm sure they knew the situation. It was a small village. And I asked the name of the police officer. I said, I'm interested to know who you are and why this girl was in that guy's flat being exploited and you didn't do anything. So then the conversation stopped. But the trafficker got the phone number probably from the police and he called me. He thought that I am a competitor. He couldn't believe that someone would help these girls. So yeah, he threatened me then. He said something with the rats, that the rats will eat whatever. I didn't take it seriously. I was just amazed at how quickly he got a response from the police when this girl was in his care and he kidnapped her from the street, basically. So yeah, it's more complicated, but no, I don't believe that I'm in danger.
I hope so, yes. I mean, the problem is, of course, like you said, it's so under-resourced that they're like, okay, they lost one girl. In a few weeks or months, they'll have another. So it's like, the supply doesn't really stop until the society changes. And that doesn't seem to be happening right now. So maybe that's also why they're fairly relaxed. I mean, they're literally working, a lot of these women, and working in quotation marks, I think, torturing them to death. So if they're willing to have them die, if one of them gets removed by social services or whatever,
it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I think so. I did want to mention one more case that made it to German media that's connected to Romania. As we were talking about, there's no Romanian survivor movement. And this case is not about a survivor because she died. Her name was, I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, Iana Matei. You might know this name as well. It was in the German media also. It was a young woman from Romania. I think she was 18 or 19. The first time she was trafficked, also promised a job in Germany through like friends of the family. And she fought back when she realized what was going to be done to her. And her pimp beat her so much she ended up severely disabled. And a couple of years later, she died. And I was told that this was a case that made headlines in Romania, that the country was talking about it. On the one hand, I'm like, okay, it's good that the country is talking. On the other, correct me, this is like just me spontaneously wondering. So they're not willing to hear from the survivor, but this is like a good victim because she fought back. I wonder if that's a category that was created I'm still processing why that might be, that nobody wants to hear from the surviving girls, but here is a young woman who died, and we are talking about it, and there is anger. Okay, but what about all the other victims? Has anything happened because of this case? Has anything changed or not?
No, unfortunately, whether there is a survivor or whether there are state brothers, we talk about it, but nothing goes deeper than that. No changes. And as you said, I agree with you. This is a good victim because she fought back. Even if she died in the process, but yeah, she was a victim. We admit that. We recognize her as a victim. But if she didn't die, she might not be a victim.
Yeah. Like, I wonder how many generations it'll take to change that.
Depends on us and how much we fight back. I don't see a lot of movement or pressure on the governments to sort out this issue. I really don't. I think that generally speaking, we got used. Okay, trafficking. Oh, we talk again about trafficking. It will go away. If we ignore it long enough, maybe it will go away, or we don't talk about it as much as we used to. And this is unfortunate because we won't be able to help these girls unless we come together and we do, each and every one of us in our place, what is it that we can do.
So in a better world where people such as yourself were able to change policy, if you were justice minister or you had more influence in Romania, what kind of laws would you ask for? Because you've written about longer sentences for the perpetrators, or you wrote throw away the key on the traffickers, which that's my dream too.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen. Because, yeah, it is necessary. This is the message that the traffickers receive, that they can do whatever. The penalties are not harsh. They can get away. They can even run their network from the prison. So, a first step I would take would be the education. During the social science classes, every child should know about abused children, their lack of self-esteem, the danger to become victims, not only for trafficking, for, drug users and everything else. You have to teach the children how to protect themselves. And then in justice department, I will lock them for life. In the States, there is this system. For one life taken, you have life sentence. You kill 3 people, you have 3 life sentences. You stay in jail until the end. I want that for the people who are abusing children because you understand that you changed that whole life. Even if she survives, she's not dead. Her whole life is changed because of what you did to her and what we did to her by not coming around her and helping in her needs.
So there needs to be resources for the victims, ideally countrywide. My understanding is that there also needs to be more communication between the countries, like a country like Spain and Romania. I mean, they have Interpol, they do some of that, but a lot of countries, they don't even collect data. In Germany, they love to say, oh, but we don't know how big the problem is, so I guess we shouldn't do anything. Every police station should be reporting, like, okay, we had a crime, there was a trafficking suspicion, or trafficking was confirmed. And there's a difference between the law on the books and the law in practice. You then actually have to fund the specialized services and police to observe the market. So my understanding is a city like Stockholm has, 25 years of experience with a specialized unit. They can never monitor the entire market, but they can diminish it somewhat. And they say, we do have a lot of contact with the women. We find them through the websites, just like most of the buyers find them through the websites. So they can be accessed, but it depends on, did the governor or the city mayor decide, oh, we will fund the prostitution specialized services this year, or we don't. So there's a lot of power in those positions. And if the law is on the books, but not implemented like Canada, where they don't really do anything, then it's business as usual. My understanding is it's a lot about the political will. No matter the law, if there's no political will, it's business as usual.
This is what I said from the very beginning. There is no political will to sort out this problem. And I remember a few years ago, I was training Norwegian police. I think I went in the parliament also and I talked, but they were not very enthusiastic because when I talked to the police, they said, look, we know these things, we want to do these things, but the budget is limited. And if you talk about taxpayers, Norwegians want to see the police protecting their property, their safety. they're not very happy to spend money on some foreigners, girls who come from whichever country. That's not priority for them. And I can see that point of view, but my question to the politicians was, why don't you, as politicians, do something about it, increase the budget or whatever? And when you talk about the budget, they are always unhappy. Unless I mention the underground economy that the traffickers are bringing in your country. You know, when they come in this country, they're encouraging black underground economy. This is what they are doing. They are paying protection. They will talk to some police and they will find ways to pay these police to inform them. And this is when they were more interested. But you need to do that constantly. I only talked to them once. I gave them examples, whatever I had at hand then. But unless you have the political will to sort out the problem, and if they say, look, this year we allocate more funding in assisting the girls, I want to say this year we want to show a zero tolerance policy for traffickers. And when you get them, put them in jail for many, many years, seize, confiscate every property that they have, work in partnership with the Romanian police so they can confiscate everything they have in Romania, leave them naked, and then do that for a whole year with all the traffickers, because it is organized crime and it is run by these guys. So you have to target them and stop the phenomenon in this way and have the assistance for the girls. It's not such a big philosophy in my mind, but you need politicians willing to do that.
What you say mirrors my experience exactly. And I know people trying to lobby governments on this, and they say we can talk to them all day about the trauma of the women, of the victims. What works is saying, oh, here's your city budget. Can you see you're spending this much because the drug gangs are also your trafficking gangs? You see you're spending this much on hospital costs because of public safety being diminished by your red light district. So you're spending this much money on HIV prevention that maybe you would save if the issue was smaller, or like whatever the costs are, the trickle down costs. You see the tax evasion of these illegal businesses. You have to like literally give them the numbers, and those numbers have to result in, oh, allowing trafficking is more expensive than fighting it.
Yeah, it is true. And I suspect that there are politicians knowing that too. But you need more lobby, as you said.
And these girls, they can't pay us. You know, I mean, most of the work I do over the years is unpaid. There's no money. So there's a lot of rhetoric that everyone is throwing money at trafficking organizations, that women such as ourselves, like we make a big career and we live super well, but you know, you have to fight for every bit of funding. That's really the reality, isn't it? If people do want to support your work, where can they find out information, networking, volunteering, money? Probably money is the best way if they don't know the situation on the ground. Where would they go to support what you're doing?
They would go on our site, which I don't know if it's still operational. It's there. We didn't pay the administrator. We didn't have the money. We prioritized. They can go on the site. It was through PayPal. It's an option. Or I can send you the reaching out account.
Yes, please do. And I will share that with listeners.
Good. And they can also follow us on Facebook. We post on Facebook activities that we have. For example, now we are raising funds for toys for Christmas for children in Ukraine. We work with a center in Ukraine. And these children don't have Christmas presents, so they made a list, and I had so much fun reading that list, because there are between 5 and 12 years old, these children. So the guys, they want the guitar, they want emergency car, police car, and the girls want makeup and handbag. I don't know. I found it funny because they live in a country at war, and children will be always children.
Ukrainian young people really need support right now, and they're ending up in our brothels as well, the young women. We have data on this.
Yeah, that's my problem. I don't want the girls. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to Ukraine with a victim of trafficking from Ukraine who came in Romania with the first wave of refugees. She was pregnant, she gave birth. Now she has a 3-year-old girl, but she needs to go back to Ukraine because she needs to work in order to raise her child. And it's very difficult to find work in Romania in this political situation. So tomorrow we go to Odessa. We put her in a mother and child shelter, and I come back. But she's done. She's not a victim of trafficking anymore. Thank God for that. So all the support for her to raise her baby, it's okay.
Thank you so much for all the work you do and for giving us your time. Is there one last thing you want to leave listeners with that we haven't addressed that's important for them to take away?
Yeah, I encourage everyone to get involved, regardless of their day job or whatever they do. They can connect with organizations that are fighting this phenomenon, and I'm pretty sure that they need all the help in the world. So get involved, help some children to live a normal, I don't like this word, but normal, but to live a fulfilled life, not a life of misery.
And it's every community. You're going to have a hard time finding a community where this is not an issue. And if it's not your local kids, which often it is, like it happens to German middle-class girls too. But, if it's not those girls, then it's the ones being brought in. So it's, again, the men around you. You can't run from this issue. And of course, we didn't even touch on this, but pornography, the majority of the population, at least the male population, is consuming pornography. And a lot of what happens to all the women and girls we talked about ends up online, filmed. And it gets called pornography.
This is what the police should target first, in my opinion, the pornography and these sites. I know there is the black internet. They don't have enough resources to go there. But yeah, like you said, it's amazing how normal, quote unquote, normal men get involved in pornography, and this is where all started. And I received a mail. I had a presentation in Canada, and after a while I received a mail from a man who said that he has been freed from pornography because he was listening to me. And I couldn't believe it was a church. That was a man who was going to church. So he was donating maybe a few months to our program as a thank you for explaining to him what these girls are getting through and bringing him to reality. I don't know if he stopped for good, but this is what he said. That what I remember is that I was struck by the fact that my audience was church people, and he admitted.
Well, at least he admitted. It's the first step, yeah. But it's every community, church community, mosque, it's everywhere. So thank you again for coming on. Thank you to the listeners who stayed with us till the end of the episode. I hope you do check out the links in the description. So thank you, and maybe we'll connect again in the future. All the best to your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
We hope you found this episode informative. To follow us on social media, click the links in the show notes below. If there is a topic you would like us to cover, you can contact us at redlightexpose.podcast@gmail.com or head on over to our website, redlightexpose.com. There you can also find a donation page if you'd like to support the show. All the hosts at Red Light Expose are volunteers, so we rely on your donations to continue to compensate our survivor guests and cover operative costs. Thank you for listening. We hope you tune in next time.